Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, I might be a tech columnist and podcaster right now. In a former life, many years ago, I was an IT support guy, and I earned my stripes in the tech battlefield right from the very bottom, and found myself on a regular basis painfully removing malware and viruses from computers. But Malwarebytes often made my life much easier and boosted my first-time fix rate. So today, getting Akshay from Malwarebytes onto the show has given me a nice, warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feeling. And Akshay is one of Silicon Valley's most prominent experts on cybersecurity and related issues facing the world. And he believes that computer security is an individual right. And under his leadership, Malwarebytes has created software based on anomaly detection and behaviour matching that exceeds conventional antivirus programs. And as a result, trips up hackers and blocks those pesky ransomware attacks. But enough from me. It's time for us to go back to the US and join me and Akshay in conversation. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi Neil. It's great to be here with you and your listeners. So I'm Akshay Bhargava, and I'm the Chief Product Officer at an endpoint security company called Malwarebytes. And so at Malwarebytes, we help keep users and organizations safe by protecting their devices. So devices here means anything like mobile devices, laptops, servers. And my role at the company is I'm focused on building new products and technology. And so this means, for me personally, this means deeply understanding and empathizing with our users and understanding their pain points and what's happening in the market. And I'm also personally excited about building a team and culture of innovation, and that's something we've been doing at Malwarebytes.
Excellent. And for anybody in the IT industry listening, they will know Malwarebytes for sure, because it's got me out of a few scrapes in my time, so I'm sure it will have them. But for any business leaders listening, I've got to ask, what are the biggest threats in cybersecurity facing organizations today?
It's a great question. And, when you look across cybersecurity threat landscape, you see all kinds of things. You see insider threats, you see breach passwords, but the biggest threats that I think organizations should be very focused on are attempts by either nation states or organized criminals looking to steal sensitive data. And these types of sophisticated attacks come in many different types, but they usually follow some consistent patterns. And typically what these attacks do is they will compromise an endpoint, and they will try to get someone to either click on a phishing email link or get you to a compromised website and eventually get you in some way or shape to download malware. And so malware can be, malware is really powerful, and it can be used to do a lot of things like steal passwords, copy and distribute itself, hold a computer for ransom. So there's a lot of different things malware can do. And that's why it is one of the biggest threats that organizations are facing today. And in fact, Neil, I'll just give you a quick stat, is in the Malwarebytes State of Malware report, one of the things that we're seeing is that there's nearly an 80% increase in different types of malware that businesses are seeing.
And I think everybody listening knows all about malware. And I think very often a lot of people don't realise that it's the frontline employees from outside IT scattered all across the business, that they're the first point of attack. So I'm curious, out of everyone that you've spoken to and the different businesses and brands that you speak to, are they getting better at educating their staff?
I think that is one of the things is educating people about malware is very interesting, because I think a lot of companies have dedicated programs say, hey, let's make sure that we educate our staff or make them do a training program. But the efficacy of actually doing a training course on malware and actually taking the right actions are still not as correlated as you would hope. And so I'll give you just one anecdote is I talked to a company, they said, hey, 100% of our employees have finished this this spear phishing email training. And then what they did is they did a simple test, and they sent an email from IT. It was a fake email. It said, "This is malware. Do not open it." And they said that still 40% of people still clicked and opened that email after doing the training. So it's just one of these things where, training is important, but it's just not sufficient.
Yeah, it's like having a big red button in front of you saying, "Do not push the red button." Someone always going to push that button, aren't they?
Exactly. I guess it's just too enticing. I guess some of these and these attackers are just so crafty. They know how to get you to press that red button, like you said. They know how to make you make it enticing enough or make it relevant enough to you that you're going to want to open that email or click that link.
And of course, we are all connected to the internet all of the time now, whether we be at work, at home, and everywhere in between on a variety of devices, from mobile phones to tablets to computers. So what risk does the average person need to be most concerned about, would you say?
Yeah, and it's a great point, because we are so highly connected. And now for many people, the notion between work and home has become so intertwined. A lot of times, like for myself, I use the same device, my same mobile phone for my personal use and for work. And so you can see how this gets intermingled pretty quickly. I think the biggest thing that people should be concerned about is risk to their personal data as well as to their organization's data. And a lot of that data is getting into a single place. So for example, I have access on my phone to my personal email and my work email. And I also have access on my phone, for example, to a lot of our, software as a service applications that access my company's data. And so if you use poor security hygiene in your personal life, it will affect your business life as well, and vice versa. And that information, given that it's increasingly in a singular place, it could be stolen, it could be used, for identity theft, or you could even have bad actors try to compromise your machine and access your personal and business data.
So if we have a small business leader listening, and he'll be thinking, well, how worried do I really need to be about cyber criminals attacking my computers in my office? Because I am just a small business, and why would they target me when I'm not a big company? What would you say to those people?
Well, the first thing I would say is you don't have to be a big company for attackers to profit from compromising you. And unfortunately, that's the hard reality. And I mentioned this earlier, but we are seeing an 80% increase specifically in small, medium businesses being attacked. And so you're seeing this huge uptick. And people say, hey, I wonder why that is. Well, one of the things is for small businesses, it can be extremely devastating to get hit by one of these attacks. And, CNBC had published an article recently where they said, small businesses almost have it worse because they can more easily go out of business, and only 14% of them are prepared. And so you think about that, and the impact to small business can be drastic. And some of these attacks now can cost, on average, it can cost a business, $200K. And so that's a big toll for a small business to take. And even Malwarebytes, I'll just give you a personal anecdote. Malwarebytes is falls into that SMB segment. We're less than 1,000 employees, and we constantly get attacks with things like fake emails from fake email from the CEO asking us to transfer money somewhere. All these types of gimmicks. So absolutely, it's on the rise, and it happens to many small companies.
And of course, another problem that both businesses and individuals need to look out for is ransomware, because it can actually cripple a whole lifestyle or entire business. But how can listeners protect themselves from ransomware, do you think? Is there anything that they should be doing differently?
There's definitely a lot of things companies need to be doing differently. And just in case listeners aren't aware, I'll just share a quick example about ransomware, because how impactful it can be to an organization. I'll just, you read the paper, you hear about ransomware all the time, but companies, like healthcare is a vertical where we're seeing huge rise in ransomware. A hospital recently, they had 6,000 computers were attacked with ransomware, and they had to move from a model of using, being able to use their computers to go into paper charts and having to talk to people. And at the same time, there's people, in the hospital on life support and the hospital is trying to fight ransomware, right? And eventually this is a Erie County Medical Center. They paid $10 million to resolve the damages from ransomware. And even City of Baltimore recently had an attack, ransomware attack, and they had to transfer $6 million that they had set aside for funds for parks and public facilities to pay for ransomware. So this is the impact of ransomware. Now, how do you prepare yourself? I think there's a couple things that organizations need to do. And the first is they need to bring in a holistic approach around technology, people, and process. And so you need to buy the right technologies, implement it. You also need to have some of the processes like incident response to make sure, like, hey, if you do get hit with ransomware, how will you roll back from that ransomware and do it quickly without impacting business processes? And the third piece you got to ask yourself is, do I have the right people or partners who can help me in case I do get hit with ransomware? So I think those are some of the key things that I help a lot of companies build their practices around.
And of course, if you find a USB pen drive lying around in the car park, it's probably best not to pick it up and plug it into your computer, right?
That's exactly right. Yes, some of the basic hygiene, some of the basic things are also just as important to protect yourself from getting infected in the first place.
And Malwarebytes is a $200 million a year private held cybersecurity company, which, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, is responsible for proving my first time fix rate in my former IT support days many, many years ago. But I'm curious, what have been the biggest changes that you've seen over the years in this space?
I'll give you two trends that I've seen. And I think the first one is around the attackers. And Neil, the attackers continue to get more and more sophisticated, and these attackers are some of the first to use cutting-edge technology. So when we talk about things like artificial intelligence or machine learning, attackers are increasingly being able to use machines against people instead of people against people. So they've really taken advantage of the latest technology waves. And the other thing is these attackers continue to become more and more persistent. And so once they know a target they want to compromise, they relent until they make sure they've compromised that. And so that's one of the things. And the flip side for on the organizations, one of the big challenges they've been facing is a huge talent shortage. There is a real shortage of cybersecurity professionals in the industry. And so a lot of companies need to rely. And just to give you a stat on this, there are about 2 million job postings worldwide for cybersecurity jobs, and there's not enough talent to fill those. And so what this means, a lot of organizations, they need technology that is simple and easy. They can't expect to get an expert threat analyst to resolve some of these cybersecurity issues, or they need partners who can come help them to do staff augmentation or take on some of their cybersecurity tasks. But those are some of the two of the big trends that I've been seeing is around the attackers getting more and more sophisticated, and at the same time, organizations struggling to keep up because of talent shortage and various other reasons.
And when I was doing a bit of research on you guys, I quickly learned that Malwarebytes protects more than 60,000 businesses and millions of people worldwide. But I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit more about how you, along with the threats, how you're having to evolve and start using things like emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning to actually jump on and catch these new threats?
One of the things at Malwarebytes that we've realized is any one security control can detect and prevent all types of threats. And that's why Malwarebytes, what we've done is we've implemented what we call layers of defense. And so we have multiple different layers of security to help detect, protect, and remediate issues. And so what we've done is over the years is we've implemented newer layers in our detection technologies that rely on machine learning. And these machine learning algorithms are really, really sophisticated, and they're catching a lot of the new threats. And so what these machine learning algorithms do is, we continuously monitor for any suspicious activities, and we can detect if we see any anomalous behavior, something that's outside of the norm. And what we've done is we've built our models to look at what good files look like, what good traffic, good environments look like. And so whenever we see anomalies to that, we treat that as suspicious activities. And then our remediation and our detection and response technologies can help you quickly isolate computers that exhibit these anomalous or suspicious behaviors. And then the one last thing that I'll leave you with is that, I've learned, being in the cybersecurity industry for more than a decade, I've learned that, there's no silver bullet in cybersecurity. If you just do this one thing, you'll be just fine. And so that's why it's always important. You will always need remediation, because the bad guys are persistent enough and they will find holes. And so you always need to have an approach to remediate if and when that inevitable happens where the attacker still gets through.
And not only did I do a little bit of research on Malwarebytes, I also did a little research on yourself there. And I know you work in an incredibly stressful field, but I believe you've also got a reputation for being one of the most calmest and focused people that you're likely to meet, which I believe you credit to your daily yoga and meditation routine. And on this Daily Tech podcast, I do try and focus on the human element in the tech industry too. So can I ask that you share a few of those secrets?
Of course, and thank you so much for that, Neil. I really appreciate that. It is interesting working in Silicon Valley as an executive. It can be pretty stressful, and it's definitely very, very fast paced and high pressure environment. And so one of the things that I started to practice yoga and meditation when I was 18 years old, and I've been practicing it every day since then. And one of the things that I have found especially effective is that a lot of times when you're stressed or you have a lot of different, or you have anxiety, your mind cannot function at the same level. You just can't have the same clarity of thought. And just by introducing, 20 to 30 minutes of yoga and meditation in the morning on a daily basis really helps to give you a few moments of deep peace. And I think that really helps to bring clarity of thought and control throughout your day. So that's one of the things that I've been doing, and I fundamentally do believe that regular practice, can have a profound impact on, one's mental and cognitive as well as emotional intelligence. So yeah, that's what I do.
Fantastic. And for anyone listening that'd like to find out more information about yourself and obviously the great work you're doing at Malwarebytes, now they can keep up to speed with the news and the advancements of technology, could you point them in the direction of the website and social channels, and equally the best way of reaching out and contacting your team if they are left with any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So malwarebytes.com is our company website. And also I'd encourage your listeners, any of them who are interested, you can certainly reach out to me or follow me on Twitter. I'm at _ Akshay BH. That's AKSHAY, B for boy, H for Henry, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I do share a lot of different tips and tricks around how my team faces different challenges around product or strategy and how we work to solve it. So.
Excellent. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today and just sharing some of your insights, especially when you're working with so many businesses and so many people. But like you said, all of us are consumers and we all own these personal devices that are constantly connected to the internet. And we just need to be a little bit more aware on how we can protect both ourselves and our organization. But more than anything, just a big thank you for helping raise that awareness and sharing some of your insights with me today. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Neil, and to your listeners.
The fact that Malwarebytes protects more than 60,000 businesses and millions of people worldwide using AI and machine learning to catch these new threats rapidly is a mouth-watering stat on its own. And yes, having him on the show today talking about Malwarebytes has left me with a lovely smell of nostalgia in my podcast studio. I have no desire to go back to fixing Beryl and Catering's malware-ridden computer again. That ship has sailed. But seriously, did any of the findings we discussed in the study surprise you today? Or do you have anything to add to today's conversation? You know the drill by now. You can email me directly. My door is always open to each and every one of you. My email address is techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can tweet me at Neil C. Hughes too, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the usual places by either searching for me, Neil C. Hughes, or visiting my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, where you can find all that and much more. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. I've got another great guest lined up for your listening pleasure tomorrow, so hopefully we can talk again. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.